Good morning,
Morning.
everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, and welcome to the HR Morning Show. Danielle is back. Joel's in the house. The gang is all here.
Yo, what up? What up?
After today, I think we only have one more live show for the rest of 2024. Danielle, what are your thoughts about that?
That's pretty wild. I think we need to make the most out of these two shows then.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have 24 shows in the year 2024, right, production team? Give me a stat check on that. 24 shows in 24. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, whether you're listening or watching live or catching us on the replay. Danielle, welcome back. How are you feeling?
Thank you. I'm doing well. The foot is good. Do we want to do a foot check?
Let's see the foot.
Foot check. Yeah, look at that.
We got the boot.
We got the boot.
Good. I'm in a lot less pain than I was, and I'm on the mend. Got the stitches out, so we're all good. I'll be walking in like 2 weeks.
That's good. Great to hear. Danielle will be back out there just in time for conference season coming up in 2025. We'll get to those in a little bit. We have a packed show today. We have a lot of awesome guests that we'll get to in a little bit. I want to thank everyone for joining us on the HR Morning Show, the #1 spot for all things HR and TA all morning long. If you want to find out more, check over to the purpleacornnetwork.com.io. Did we change the website? Did it used to be purpleacorn.io? What happened there? In my ear, tell me if that's a real thing that we're doing there. Follow us on LinkedIn. Follow us on YouTube. Check out the podcast every Tuesday. And if you're hanging with us right now, get involved in the comments.
Let us know. We want to know who's out there. Come on.
Yeah, who's out there? Who is tuning in? Who is with us today? We have a jam-packed show. Joel, what's happening? How do you approach the last couple of weeks of the calendar year? Besides, we'll get to TikTok ban in a little bit. So what are you working on?
You know what? I'm working on a little bit of planning, but then a lot of BD, because I know that the harder you work in December, the better your January is going to be. So it's business development, it's planning, and of course, any of the downtime that I have, I'm creating content, not slowing down ever on that. So that's my plan. How about you, Danielle? What are you doing?
A little bit of the same, but I am taking it a bit easier because I have still a foot to be healing. But yeah, a little bit of like content planning, resetting, what do I want to do? What do I want, my personal brand to be next year? I'm also doing a giveaway.
What?
To celebrate 21K because I missed the 20K last week.
What's up, Ray in the house?
We're growing quickly, so that's exciting.
What are you giving away?
Just spending time with family.
Are you giving your followers $1 for every follower you have?
$1 per follow.
You wish. No, I'm giving away access to a recording of a keynote that I did kind of recently.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah.
It's a gift that keeps on giving. Well, we want to thank everyone for joining us today. We have a jam-packed show, so let's get to it. Let's get the headlines.
Let's go.
What are we talking about today? Because, this one's for you, man. This one is...
So
this could ruin you, but you've
coded.
Let me just tell you, I was going through some of my old videos, and this headline has come up over the years, over and over and over. TikTok's gonna get banned. This time they got some full steam behind it. January 19th, unless ByteDance can find a buyer for TikTok, apparently it's gonna get banned, and they're gonna sell it. People ask me, like, what are my thoughts with this? My thoughts, I just don't care. I really do not care. Will it suck to lose 250,000 followers? Sure. Let me just tell you, though, that platform has nothing to do with followers. It's an outreach platform. You don't even reach your own followers. My strategy is make as much video as you can and put it on all the other platforms. That's why I'm growing on Facebook right now. Shout out.
Yeah. Hit that boomer audience.
Let's go. 2 million views on Facebook this month.
Do they like you?
No, they hate me. They are even worse than they are.
They think you're an entitled millennial.
It's not even that. You should see the comments on it. It's like people are like, this guy should just go hang himself. Like,
whoa.
I know.
Whoa.
And I'm
what
like,
are they yelling about? They get retirement money.
Yeah, well, whatever. So I'm not worried about it. Who I feel really bad for are people who have only built on TikTok. And I don't understand I don't understand. It's so easy to repurpose content. Like, there's
So
an app
easy.
called
Yeah.
Repurpose.io that will automatically do it. So
But do we really think it's gonna be banned? Like,
No.
everyone's talking about how an American company is gonna buy TikTok. I think it's way too
Well,
valuable. It's like it's competing with Amazon at the moment with, like,
oh yeah, it's
TikTok
a
Shop.
huge e-commerce shop. I
Huge.
think it's political chatter. As Joel mentioned before, we've heard this like every year or so. The ban comes up. It's not going anywhere.
it's just
Right?
stupid when you look at the election this year. Trump and Kamala, both of them were on
Kamala.
the Kamala. They were both on the talk promoting. So
He was,
it's
yeah.
just
Greatest
Yeah,
talk ever.
Trump kinda changed his messaging around TikTok
yeah, because in
because
2016 he's like, "Oh, we
because it
gotta ban
helped
it, we
him.
gotta ban it," and now it's just it's just stupid.
Well,
It doesn't even
well, well. The one thing I will say in a related, I mean, I think it was Australia. They just passed a ban for no social media or very very limited social media until you're
You're, like,
16,
16?
which I
Yeah.
think is great for mental
yeah,
health. I think it's
yeah.
fantastic. I think it'll eliminate a lot of bullying and so many other things. Like, why do you need it? Like, why
Yeah,
do they
but,
need it?
like,
Kids could go
on
back
a
to
Yeah.
actually talking to each other.
look, some of this stuff, man, like, this is like, to me, that's parenting, all right? Like,
I don't
it's
Mhm.
necessarily think that's gonna stop it though, because like I grew up in, until I was in ninth grade or like sixth grade,
The
everyone
last
started
year.
getting smartphones. Yeah, literally. But to be honest, before that, there was bullying going on in like chat rooms and on
yeah.
AOL and AIM. So
Aim.
I think
And
it's
before
more.
that,
I
you
think it's
used to just get punched in the face.
or like
Old
people
school
writing mean
bullying.
letters. Like bullying's gonna happen regardless. I think it's more about teaching people how to be nice to one another and how
Mm.
to not bully each other, right?
I like to
Isn't
bully
that
Joel.
Well, it's not
well, you
honestly, I
guys are
think
still children.
a lot of that stuff too is just, what are you modeling to your kids? Like, that's something I'm really focused on. Like, my kids
Mhm.
think that work is, like, literally going to, like, a basement and making videos. Like, that's what my kids think my job is, and so, like,
I mean,
I'm trying to, like, be a lot more, like, when I'm with them, like, off the phone, putting the phone away,
present.
just
Right.
showing that, like, I own the phone. Because I think the phone and
Yeah.
I think actually social media are great things if you know how to use them as tools, but it's like, if you're just using it for entertainment and that's what they see, then they're gonna do the same thing, so I think we're all kind of working together with that, so
I
I
think it's the
wonder
right thing.
I wonder what people in the audience think about this TikTok
yeah,
ban.
let us know.
Do you
TikTok, do you think it
care?
would get banned? Do you care, and do you think it would get banned? Let
Well,
us know.
I wish they would just ban Joel. I support that. Like a full Joel ban.
Can't ban me.
That would be great. So listen, we want to hear what you think about this. We could beat this topic to death. I mean, we keep going back and forth to it, but in my opinion, it is not going anywhere. Speaking of going places, let's get to the event roundup.
Let's go.
Coming up, we have so many amazing things.
Round
coming up.
up.
Oh my
Oh,
God, where do we start? We have the higher road. There it is. We have yeah, is that on there? Yeah, the higher road roundup webinar, right? People analytics for all, best practices for practitioners from early career leadership. That is happening today, the 10th.
Good day.
Today at 1:00
I got
Eastern
that
time.
email.
So that's soon. So make sure you sign up for that.
Scan that
That's
QR
pretty
code.
cool. Who do we got? Previous guest Lydia Wu, Dawn Burgess from
Woo!
Perseus Banks, and Ali Kumar from Nike, and Megan Yang from One. What is One?
I don't know, but I'm tuning into that. That sounds great.
That sounds awesome. And all of our friends, previous guests, and people that we really hold to a high standard as thought leaders in the industry, and our friends over at Higher Road, so definitely check
Honestly,
that one out. Scan that
webinars don't
QR
get
code.
enough life. They don't get
Well,
enough. They don't get enough love, life. They don't get enough
well,
anything.
it's the legs
Yeah, I
afterwards
don't
with a
know.
lot
I
of
call
these
them
too, right?
dadinars.
The content that you make afterwards with those
Extend the
recordings is how do you
lifetime of it.
extend it, right? Extend the legs. What else we got? What else we got going on coming up in February? I know there's another cool graphic. 1, 2, 3, bam!
Bam.
Whoa,
Oh, check, you like how
magic.
that worked, right? I'm like Mr. So, side note, by the way, I've been binging Mr. Beast real hard with my son the last couple of months. I'm gonna make a post about it soon. I love Mr. Beast. I love everything
You
about them,
studying him, huh?
what they're doing. I'm studying. It's gonna be great. But we got some cool stuff coming up.
I love how the last segment we were talking about like training our kids up on social media. Like, yeah, I got
you have to watch the episode where they camp out on like a dock essentially in the middle of the ocean. It's insane. It's really funny.
I watch it. And then Beast Games is coming up on the 19th, and that's what we're going to watch all holiday season. But let's talk about from day one. That's coming up at the Chicago Half Day Benefits Conference. That's Wednesday, the 15th of January. That's something cool to check out if you're in the Chicago area. They might be streaming some of that too. And then TA Week is coming up February 3rd through 6th. I might be out there, still kind of hammering out some details. I might be returning out to the West Coast.
You might. I will.
Which will be starting my 8 West Coast trips for 2025. And I'll be talking to Dean DaCosta about his talk at TA Week in a little bit. We're excited for that. But there will be some 1, 2, maybe Purple Acorn crew.
1, 2, 3. What
right,
you know
about me? About that.
I do a Joel's poll live.
I'm happy to see.
I thought he was going to start rapping.
I'm happy to see events. Really coming back, in this post-COVID era. That's where we connect, right? We're online, we're remote all the time, bringing people together. And the more you connect in person, that's where the real relationships are. We have some good stuff coming up.
Real quick, we got some banter in the chat.
Okay, what do we got going on?
The TikTok ban. All right, we can't always rely on LinkedIn streaming this live and getting the comments in. So the consensus is people don't think it will get a ban. They're a fan of TikTok, but they won't be sad if it's gone. And then Keirsten in the chat said hi as well. And then Star Sky said China has banned Meta. Why not? Why not do a ban on TikTok? So that's what we're thinking so far. I want to know from everyone who's gonna be at either of these events. TA Week from day one. Let us know where you're gonna be. I want to know so we can get there too.
And speaking of events, my podcast episodes live from ERIN started to air. The first couple are out there. Yeah, my first one with Ron Fish and Kevin Grossman that came out yesterday. Today, an awesome episode with Mr. James Ellis. Tomorrow, we have Rachel Allen from 7-Eleven, Jason Morneau. And then next week, Cheryl Peterson, Mark Murphy, Kevin Wheeler, David Crawford. And then finishing up right before the holidays, I have Jennifer Tardy and the one and only Mr. Recruiting Brain Food himself, Hung Lee. You can find out all those episodes on the podcast.com. And thank you to my friends over at juicebox.ai for their support on those.
But did you get that HR person that fired everybody or for being stressed out? That's what I want to know.
No, but I do have an exclusive from Kevin Wheeler, and he talks about his plans or dreams to potentially die at an HR conference.
Oh, that's the dream. My wife goes, "How do you think the conference is going to be?" I'm like, "I hope I die at the conference."
I mean, you're gonna have to hear that one to believe it, but I don't make this up. Danielle, are you gonna be good to go for TA Week? Are you gonna be off das Boot? You're gonna be good.
I will. I'll be fully walking. In like 3 weeks, actually.
That's a huge
in time
step
for Aruba.
It's one small step. One small step for the morning show, one giant step for Danielle.
That's amazing.
We're not. Where's the crickets? I'll hit my own crickets button on that one.
Do it.
And here in the comments, guys, what are you planning? What are you thinking about doing and attending? You're going to be at Transform. You're going to be at Unleash. You're going to be at TA Week. You're going to be at RecFest. What are you doing? RecFest US, RecFest UK. What else is going on? There's a lot.
There's so many.
There's so many.
You better bet your bottom dollar that the Purple Acorn team will be there in the HR.
There's a Hire Easy event today. Hire Easy, we expect sponsorship for mentioning you. So.
Yes, Hire Easy. Don't look for the Venmo request. It's going to be coming in. The invoice.
Yeah. Evan White from Evan White. Just watch out.
Well, what else we got going on?
Guest.
Oh, yeah.
All I know is this. All right, guys, how do you know that Purple Acorn is in the house at these conferences? How do you know?
The red shoes.
Oh, that's a screenshot.
That's right. We're always kicking it with the red shoes.
Danielle, how come you didn't paint your boot red?
Dude,
I got it yesterday. But you know what? There's no excuse.
Spray painting that thing.
And you should have had Amazon spray paint or paint whatever.
Evan, we need some spray paint over to Danielle.
I have a pink hat.
Oh, hold on.
Pink hats.
I can't take the only way I could do this if I put my headphones over it, it's going to crush it.
It scrunches it, and then you can't hear.
But if
I thought ahead, guys. I wore my over the ear.
How about I just put it on my camera? How's
All
that?
right.
I'm gonna do the rest of the show with the pink hat on my camera. Does that work for you guys?
All right, Ray said Transform, Unleash, Vegas, Staffing and Talent Solutions Conference, and the Tiaras in Atlanta. Ray.
Good
Can't wait to
lineup.
see you there.
He's got to
Yeah,
get
it's a
back up
lot.
those Delta miles.
Ray's a legend.
Yeah,
I
let's
really
get.
want to make status.
All right. Let's keep the show moving. And I hear a caller coming in.
Hello.
Good morning.
Stephanie, good morning. Do you recognize this hat by any chance?
I love it. Where is that hat at? Where are you located? Tell everybody where you're
Oh, me. I'm in New York. And
New
and you?
York.
Yeah.
So from Taft, Texas to New York, that little hat traveled.
It's so cute. I opened the box and I was like, wow, it's really pink. I love it.
Good.
It is a hard hat. Jay asked in the comments, can you just tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Stephanie Hajducek, and I'm the founder of This One's for the Gals. We are a nonprofit organization working to help girls with career exploration and workforce development. We focus on construction, energy, manufacturing, and maritime. And we really like to say we talk to girls about careers that not a lot of people talk to girls about, from skilled trades to STEM. So whether they want to pursue a degree in engineering, or maybe they want to know what it's like to be a welder, whatever that looks like for them, we just help them explore those careers and just let them know there's a place for them out there in that workforce.
That is so awesome. I feel like this is such a needed it's just a responsibility, I feel like, for us to educate young girls about STEM, about the fact that it is possible for them to get involved in these types of careers. Can I ask what inspired you to get into this work?
Oh my goodness. So how it started is not at all how it's going, but it's going so great. So I live in a little town called Taft, right outside of Corpus Christi, Texas, and we're known as the Coastal Bend of Texas. And our family moved here about 5 years ago. My husband took a new position at a new manufacturing facility that was being built in this area. And we have twin boys who are today 21 years old. So happy birthday, Adam and Aiden, crazy, and a daughter that's 15. And so moved our family down here. My husband, I love talking about him because he is a great example of somebody that left high school, went straight into the workforce, learned a skilled trade, industrial electrician by trade, learned it well, worked hard, and has done some really amazing things coming from a skilled trade background.
Wow.
So he was on this project and went to hire technicians. So he was looking for electricians to hire. And he had a little bit of a trouble trying to find qualified technicians in our area. And I just remember thinking, okay, they did not build this facility overnight. It took them about 5 years to build this plant. What are we doing to help our kids learn about these career pathways with these companies that come in, build these large facilities, have hundreds of jobs? That's their future, and so there wasn't a lot of connection between industry and like K through 12, like their school districts. And I'm like, that's our future workforce. We need to have a relationship with them, talk to them, let them know who we are, what we do, and get them excited about the potential to come and work for us one day. And so that's really what sparked this conversation. We hadn't been talking to boys, much less girls, about any of these career pathways. And so I had what I thought was a small idea to get a group of girls to a conference that's held in Galveston, Texas. It's called Power Women in Industry. And POWER stands for pipe fitters, operators, welders, electricians, and riggers. And it is an opportunity for women who might be unemployed, underemployed, might be looking for a career change, and then girls ages 16 and up to attend this conference. They get to hear from women that are out there. They get to walk through a big career expo, talk to education providers, just a really great opportunity. And so again, just a small idea, wanted to get a group of girls from our local high school. I approached my manager at the company I was working for at that time and just said, hey, there's this really great conference. I think it'd be beneficial if we could help sponsor our local high school and get a group of girls to it. He thought it was great. I went and talked to the school, introduced myself, told them about the conference. They were super excited. They said, absolutely, yes, we would love to collaborate. Our kids go to a different school down the road. And so I wanted that same opportunity for the girls at our school. So just kind of nudged my husband and said, hey, who can I contact? They're at your company that might help. So I reached out to them and just said, this is what my company is doing for our local school district. Would you be interested in sponsoring yours? That response was great. They said, absolutely. We love this initiative. We'd love to help. And then I kept going. I said, there's another school down the road. There's another industry partner down the road. And my initial thought when I first thought of this idea was we'd get 10 or 12 girls, load them in our company van with a chaperone and drive to Galveston for the day. It is about a 4-hour drive. So it's quite of a trip.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's our idea. But by the time I was done, I got over 200 girls to that conference.
Wow.
The very first year, I even thought of the idea, brought it up. Yeah, it was amazing.
So it sounds like you're serving a major need. And, what's interesting for me as like a young person in this, in this HR industry is when I go to conferences, I'm usually one of the youngest in the room. And it strikes a chord with me because I feel like, especially during the pandemic, we were talking about reimagining work and doing it for the next generation without really having the next generation often in the room with us to co-create those solutions, which is what Gen Z is all about, and which you probably know too. And so when I think about, getting these young adults and kids to conferences at such a young age, from like high school even, I mean, that's a really difficult feat. And it's also one that you have to sell to the conferences. And it's one that, in my opinion, is super important, because if you can get them to buy in and you can get them to see the model of a specific,
Right.
industry or career path, then you could really show them what's possible. And I feel like there's not many opportunities to do that. So major kudos to you. What do you feel like we need to be doing in order to really help, encourage and normalize women in STEM?
So, the biggest thing that I found, and you're right, whenever I first started this, it took a lot of groundwork. I mean, being able to get buy-in from the schools was, it was pretty difficult. I mean, they don't just let anybody inside their, inside their doors. And so
Yeah.
I did a lot of, foundation building and going and having meetings and doing presentations, taking the time to sit down and talk, share my own story, share, because we're trying to get, our educators to help with career exploration. And if they don't know, how do we expect them, if they don't know about our industries, how do we expect them to tell the kids and be able to guide the kids, right?
Right.
So I think that was like a major disconnect. I'll also tell you the way that I never even thought of starting a nonprofit. I really just wanted to get girls this trip to this conference. But we were there, and a lot of the schools went the night before, stayed at the hotel, took their girls out, had a nice dinner. Really, it was just a great overall experience for these girls. And one of the counselors comes up to me and she was thanking me for getting the initiative started. Then she said something that completely changed the game. She said, Stephanie, you may not realize this, but the majority of our girls have probably never stayed in a hotel room before. They've probably never been out of their hometown. And in this area where I was working, it was smaller, more rural school districts, and we see a lot of generational poverty. We see a lot of kids seeing their parents get by, making ends meet, and them thinking that's life, and that's how my life is going to be. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way. How can we show them that through, our industries, these industries, that they can change that cycle, right? And so that's where it became a much bigger conversation than just a field trip or a conference. I'm like, it's awareness and opportunity, and getting our kids to realize that they can do anything. They can be anything. It doesn't matter where they came from. It matters where you're going and if you're willing to work hard to get there. And so that's where I decided, okay, I'm going to start this nonprofit. Had no clue what I was doing, but I knew it needed to be done. And when we think of it that way, right, because you're right, this next generation is different. Like your pay, your benefits, okay, that's cool. But tell me, what are you doing to make my world a better place? Like, that's what's going to set one company apart from the other, right? They want to work for somebody where they know they're making a difference in the world, where they can give, and how can we show them the great things that we're doing to help attract them? And so that's what I have found is, again, kind of fell into this space, but really just creating that connection between industry and K through 12. And like, we have initiatives all the way to elementary, like as early as possible, helping girls see themselves in these roles. Going to college career fairs and recruiting events, like that's okay. But if we're not in the high schools and the junior highs and the middle schools and elementaries, helping them explore careers and guiding them into, because 6th, 7th, 8th grade, kids are having to pick dual credit programs, pathways, and aligning with something. And it's like we're telling them, you're going to go to high school in a couple of years. What are you going to be for the rest of your life?
Right. I mean, I definitely felt that way when I was younger, but at the same time, I did have more models of what was possible because I obviously grew up in New York City, and it's a melting pot. You see all different types of lifestyles here. But I think that point, that you just made about making it more personal, making it more about expanding the what you believe is possible for yourself is really the most important part, I think, of what you do, and it's truly inspiring. I'm not naive. I know that nonprofits run on a donation basis and grants as well. So how can the audience support you and continue to make sure that this one's for the girls keeps doing the best work possible?
Right. So, the biggest thing I tell everybody is just exposure. Just say our name in a room where it needs to be said, where it needs to be heard. It's really information sharing. We're sharing information with girls and just kind of giving them exposure to career pathways, again, that nobody really talks to them about. So exposure, number one, right? And then, because what I have found is it was one of those things, build it and they will come. Like industry was like, yes, we've been trying to figure out how to create this connection, how to build that work.
Flock.
Yes, for sure. And so that's definitely one spot. Obviously, donations on our website, there's a donate spot to help support our efforts financially, but really, or again, how do we spread this message? How do we create the awareness? Because Texas is huge. Like, there's like 50 school districts in this coastal bend. And so how are we going to reach more girls? And that's through other people seeing what we're doing and say, hey, please help us do that for the girls in our community. Right.
I love it.
So, yeah. Anybody that wants to help, like we're going to start an ambassador program in 2025. If you want to go into your own communities and just, again, hand out information. We have a really great social media presence, and we've got to meet the kids, the next generation, where they're at. And where are they? They're on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
And,
100%.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for stopping by, for sending the hats. I will definitely be giving this to my niece or nephew when they grow up a little bit more. But thank you so much. And check out This One's for the Girls, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it. And, I think there's more stories out there like mine that, where women have made their way into a career they never thought possible. And it's important for us to share those stories and just kind of, again, get the word out and just help girls reach for the stars when it comes to their career. Because I'll tell you, my passion for this comes from me being that girl that I'm trying so desperately to help right here. I am that girl.
Yeah.
So if you're that girl and you want to share your story, please reach out to me, because together we can inspire the next generation.
I love it. All right. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
All right, it's time for the Global Report, where our friends over at Smart Recruiters. So we have a new face here. Tracy Parsons, welcome to the Global Report. Why don't we take a moment to introduce yourself, tell everyone out there who you are and what you do best.
Oh, well, what I'm going to do best today is share really bad news, looking really friendly in a Santa hat. Like I am, putting it out there with my friends at Smart Recruiters. I'm Tracy Parsons. I'm the CEO of Parsons Strategic Consulting. You may know my work from a lot of global brands doing amazing things in recruitment marketing. And one of our products is Flockity. But here I am talking with my dear friend Lynn Bailey on the Purple Acorn show, the morning show.
Well, welcome.
Talk about voice of the candidate, some research that we.
Yeah, we're gonna dig into that in a moment, but first let me say hello to my friend Alin. What's happening? You got your Christmas decorations up in the holiday spirit?
I know my Christmas decorations are up thanks to the previous owners of the house here who shipped stuff and didn't know they shipped it here. So
And
now
they'll never find out because they're probably not watching this unless they're in HR, right?
exactly not happening. So that's cool. That was a
Hey,
bonus.
listen, their loss is your gain. So anyone out there, just check your address. Make sure you're not sending stuff to a link because you'll never get it back. And she's a finders, keepers, losers, weepers type of person. And now I know that about you. I actually like you more.
You
I respect that. I do. So let's get into it. And we're going to talk about job seekers. And listen, if you take one moment and scroll on LinkedIn, you will see the frustration. You will see the stress that's out there. It is bad. It is really rough out there for so many people. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. And they're burnt out. They're applying for many, many hundreds. Sometimes people apply for thousands of jobs. I'm not even going to get into that, but it's stressful and it takes a toll on you. I mean, I know I've been there years ago. I went through a 9-month period job search, and it was devastating, and it was really hard for me to keep up every day. But what I did was I focused and I treated it like a job, and showered, got dressed, and got out of my apartment in the city and went to the coffee shop and really got to work on it. But Tracy, talk us through the research. What are we hearing out there?
Yeah, and it's really interesting that, this is the first research of its kind. We've been doing it for a number of years, and we're really excited to be partnered with Smart Recruiters on this. And essentially, like anything that's written on the public internet, whether it's Reddit, X, Facebook, if it's a public post on LinkedIn, if it's a public post on TikTok, it's we're gathering all that insight and putting it into a really, really smart machine called Quid. And Quid, we run these great queries and understand what the candidate conversation is around the job search. And one of the things that I can never stress enough is that this is an enormous conversation. There are 20 million conversations happening in a 6-month period of time. And if you compare that to Black Friday, which is a day or 2 weeks, that's less than 20 million.
Yeah, it's
right. So this is a
rough.
big conversation, and they're sad. Like you said, Adam, like this is hard, and it's hard on them, and they are treating it like a full-time job, and they are taking the time to comment about their experiences freely on the internet. So we're studying that, and we're doing this broad scale social listening study and applying then Smart Recruiters data, understand how we can start moving the needle, because a lot of times in our industry, we like to listen to respond.
We also like to talk to each other constantly.
Oh, right? Nonstop.
Like here we are.
Very extroverted. I mean, but the frustration, it's one thing to be frustrated. There's one thing to, be looking for a job, but it's a supply and demand situation here, right? Or it's also and I tell job seekers all the time, maybe this is an opportunity to look for something temporary to get the cash flow in while you're looking. Maybe it's time to look for, what else do you maybe like to do or could do. And again, I hate to say this, but sometimes you got to take a step backwards and just do what you got to do. It's a tough one, right? Because you hit a limit financially of how long can I be without a job until I take something? And then it's the old conundrum of if I take something, I'm not going to be able to interview for something else. It's a lose-lose, and it's tough.
Well, and I would actually argue.
Please, that's why I make comments like this.
I love it. I would actually argue that we're over marketing.
What do you mean?
So, yes, there are not as many jobs open. There may be more job seekers than jobs open, but when companies are going to market with "we're amazing for everyone and everyone works here and everybody fits in here," that's going to lead to a lot of applications and a lot of disappointed job seekers, right? We have no capacity to market with empathy. We have no capacity to be transparent in our communications or differentiated in our employer brand. Like there's an opportunity for us to be more honest in our communications. And instead of telling everybody that, everybody fits in here, there's a job for everyone here. There's not, people.
Nope.
And stop telling people that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with that too. And I think there was a post a couple of weeks ago that someone shared on LinkedIn. It was a very specific post by a startup, a successful startup. They said, we all work really hard here. Some weeks we're putting in 60, 70 hours. Sometimes we work on the weekends. We're very transparent about that. If that's you and you want to be part of it and, there's equity involved here and you want to earn that, great. But we're being upfront with you. And there's a lot of hate on that. I'm like, whoa. They know who they're looking for because they're not for everybody. And the same thing with employer branding. If you try to be everything to everybody, you're going to be nothing to nobody.
Bingo. And that's what we're seeing in the data. I'm sorry, Ellen, go ahead.
Nothing. I was just
she's been waiting to talk. I can't believe you haven't talked at all.
No,
I know it's painful. I can see it in your face.
Yeah, no, I'm good. No, I was only just agreeing. I was thinking, Tracy. Remember, we used to talk about this a lot. Remember the story that you told me about the customer that you worked with that was drawing blood and the challenge that was happening there? To me, this kind of correlates and resonates really closely to that, right? At the end of the day, what people think they want, what they get, and what it ends up of are completely different things that both parties end up dissatisfied at the end of the story, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the story Ellen's referencing is that I was working for a client at one point and they were hiring patient care technicians and they had all this rampant turnover in the role, which is a hard job. Like it's one of those hard jobs, right? So, and jobs are hard. Let's not forget that, you guys. Nobody shows up for free. It's the truth. But they looked at their turnover data and they're like, oh, people are leaving because they didn't know they were going to be working with blood.
And they did not read the job description?
It wasn't in the job description.
And that happens too. Yes. Misaligned job requirements because they're either poorly written, they're copy and pasted. So many reasons.
Or they don't want to tell people, like, this is going to scare people off. I'm like, okay, but the other side of that is it's going to scare people off. Eventually, do you want to spend the money to bring them in and turn them over and bring them in again? Or do you want to tell them the truth up front and get fewer, more quality applications? Like,
I would go for the latter.
Conversation we need to be having. And job seekers are so burned out because of some of this behavior.
Yeah, I think that burnout is a really important point, right?
It is.
If you think about it, if I just think about the three of us independently, the number of times we have had something related to this conversation over the course of how many years?
How about daily?
Right, daily, right? For years.
For decades.
Conversation. So job seekers are in the same spot, right? They're not in some like little isolated bubble where they're only thinking about this the day they're applying for a job. This is a constant pressure on them. With these mixed expectations. And so the burnout of what it's going to take to find a job, how to find a job, who to connect with, is it even going to happen? Nobody's going to answer to me. It compounds year after year after year. And they're unhappy, right?
So,
and it's going to get fixed with like let's have a better follow-up comms, right?
No. And this is how bad it is, y'all. This report, so we looked at the net sentiment, so the number of people that are happy versus sad in their comments about looking for a job. Net sentiment dropped 67% in a year around the job search. And that's the biggest conversation that they're talking about looking for a job. When it comes to applications or applying for a job, net sentiment dropped 89%. So like when we see a net sentiment drop on this large of a conversation, the alarm bells need to start ringing.
Yeah, but the question is, what are we going to do about it? And do companies really care? Or do they even have the resources? I mean, that's another major part of the problem. The pipeline is overflowing. Companies are under-resourced from a recruiter standpoint. They can't look at every application. They can't screen every applicant. The demand, the supply of jobs isn't there. It's a lose-lose across the board. So what is the solution? What are we going to do about it? What are companies going to do about it? Is it something as simply as just trying to be a little bit nicer and make more contact points? Close the loop.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We can close the
loop. Hashtag duh.
Yeah. You know, here's what I'm going to say to every company that's out there who's trying to struggle with this conversation. I think we need to get smarter about how we are employing technology solutions to allow us to address this, right? Mm-hmm. So listen, it's not a question of is it a human or is it tech? It's a question of is it anybody? And do you have a process and a framework design to ensure that you are connecting at the right points and closing the loops at the right moments? What's happening is we have too many companies who are putting a foot in both worlds. And they're thinking about it from an efficiency perspective, but they're by no means having a conversation about what's the experience I'm trying to create and how do I design that experience, now understanding the tools I have in front of me to support the job seeker. And it will bite them in the butt in the long run. We do know that, right? At some point, people will stop. At some point, right?
At some point.
You will run out of new names, if nothing else.
Right.
Right. There are a finite number of names that we could market to, that we can burn. And to, exactly what you're saying, empathy. These are actual humans. So train your robots to talk to actual humans with empathy.
I think there's a path. There is a path forward. We're getting there. And if you're using the tech to scale, be mindful about the communication and what it's saying. So we could talk about this for hours, but we need to unfortunately keep the show moving. Tracy, you've been a fantastic addition here. Where could folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more?
LinkedIn, Tracy Parsons, bringer of sunshine. I'm also on the Instagram at that Tracy. Not this Tracy
or your Tracy. It's that Tracy. And Lynn, thank you so much as always for joining us here. Looking forward to continuing the conversation next week. Thank you to our friends over at Smart Recruiters. You know where to check them out. Just go to smartrecruiters.com. And guys, in case you're we found Winston. We found Winston a while ago. Winston was never lost, but we found Winston.
Yeah, we found, and he, by the way, just so you know, he's been hard at work. And at the end of January, his first really cool features are going to roll into the world. So we're super excited.
Look out for that. And Tracy, if I don't speak to you, have a wonderful holidays. And Lynn, I'll catch you next week. Thank you so much. Let's keep the show rolling. Here we go.
All right. We got the Sloths for Sloth program. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at ERIN. Let's see your
ERIN.
sloth. Are you sloth? I got the best sloth.
Mine's at home. I think my kids stole it.
Yeah, my kids steal all my stuff that I get from ERIN, except for the shoes. Shout out to the Red Shoe Crew. Let's see those shoes one more time.
I'm not taking them off, but I wear my shoes every day, and for two reasons. One, because they're red and they're cool. They are really comfortable. Yeah, and they slip on real easily. I'm a big fan of laziness and comfort.
Slip on.
Laziness and comfort. That's what
we're in our lazy girl era.
I am definitely in my lazy girl era in December, which I need to snap out of. But we're gonna get into it. Joel, tell us about ERIN.
Well, look, ERIN is the #1 employee referral program, and basically you can just plug it in. It's super easy for employees to use. They gamify referrals. So particularly for like really tough to fill roles, like nursing, manufacturing, you got to get ERIN. It's just going to make referrals so much easier for you guys. But they're also doing the Sloth for Sloth program. If you want to get involved, essentially what you can do is just scan one of these QR codes. You can select some items to donate. They get shipped to the ERIN office. And then they're going to get Jerome Bettis, the bus, to deliver for the toy drive in 2024. So if you want to get involved, please scan the QR code. Give it away. We talked about this last week.
I'm doing it right now.
You better be doing it right now.
You're scanning the QR code right now.
I just scanned it.
I didn't see it. So you got to do it again.
When does this end? It ends on December 15th.
I'm already on the page. Look.
Yeah, so you got 5 days. 5 days to donate those gifts.
It's so easy.
And just remember, guys, we were just talking in that last segment about the job search, how tough it is. Look, imagine being on a job search and you got kids and it's like you want to give them something for the holidays, for Christmas. You know, it's tough. It is really, really a tough time.
I'll add, it's not just toys. It's also winter clothes.
Winter clothes for sure. And look, in Wisconsin, we need those. In where are you guys at? Like New York, you need those winter clothes too. If you're like where Evan is, you probably don't need winter clothes, but that's all good. But get involved anyway. Scan the QR code. We want to give a special shout out to ERIN for sponsoring the show as well. And if you want to get a sloth of your own, you can go to purpleacorn.io/free and get one of these. I'm telling you, I've had like 10 of these, and my kids love them. They lose them. They throw them around. They love the sloths. So get involved. Adam, Danielle, anything else? Nah, my dog doesn't. She's too old.
All right. Well, thank you to our friends at ERIN. Let's give a shout out. Click the QR code, and now it's time for Weather with Serge.
Sergi.
Good morning, beautiful people. On today's HR Weather Report, I have some bad news for HR Pro because your job is going to get even harder. So the last 5 years have been really challenging for HR. We had the pandemic, We had everyone work from home. Then recently we had everyone return back to the office, and HR had to manage this. We had a great resignation. We had some social issues that brought the rise, and some would say the fall of DEI. And the next 5 years are going to become even more challenging. We have a skill gap that is growing every day. We have our employees that are expecting a whole lot more than they ever have. We have AI and everything that comes along with it. We have the regulatory changes that come with it as well. We have a really interesting workforce dynamic with multiple generations in the workforce at once. And I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. Although HR has done so much in the past 5 years in a really difficult time, I think we're losing credibility with the C-suite. I think we have over-indexed on social programs and general feelings, and we have not done enough to refocus on business results. So we need to refocus on what we can do to drive better value within the organization. And one of those is, how do we help increase productivity? That's a major challenge with every organization, and we're well set up to help them and drive that within the organization. We're also, how do we help with the reducing the costs and the risk of everything that's coming down the pipeline? Because there's a lot coming down the pipeline. And how do we share that we're a profit center and not a cost center? So I think HR needs to be the business unit that drives all growth and innovation within the organization. We have that opportunity, but that makes the HR job way harder, although way more rewarding. And because of that, way less stressful than it's been in the last 5 years. So that's the HR weather. How about we get to the panel?
Okay.
All right. Who's had it harder, recruiters or HR?
Oof.
I think HR.
Really? Is it hard to lay off all those recruiters? Is that where you're getting with that?
Their decision.
Well, recruiters are kind of the canary in the coal mine. When times get tough, they're the first to get laid off, because if you're not going to be hiring anyone, makes sense.
Well, no. The one step for the employer branding, they get laid off first.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Employer branding, then recruiters. But recruiters are really early in that process. But the flip side, recruiters are the first ones to get rehired when the economy and companies start over again. But what's your thoughts here as far as how... I really do think this is a major challenge, and it's been one that I've seen throughout my whole career, is how does HR focus on business results? Because I think without it, we don't have a lot of credibility within the C-suite.
My question is, how come we can't tie the, business results and outcomes to, well, I hired that person, so isn't that an HR win?
It is. Well, and I think it's critical that HR and talent acquisition hire the right people within the organization and spend a lot of time. If we do that well, it drives all the other aspects that I've been saying. Have we done a good job in hiring in the last 5 years overall as HR? I would question that.
HR shouldn't be hiring.
I feel like the tough thing is that you can't necessarily attribute retention or engagement to one specific action. Versus, sales is so much easier to track. I think marketing has the same kind of problem sometimes. It's you don't necessarily know where a lead or what specific action really encourages someone to reach out and request a demo or get involved in your product. So I think every single part of the business unit, especially when times are hard, comes under fire to, how can I tie my results back to business outcomes? I think it's hard.
How do we do it in HR? We haven't done a really good job at it, right? How do we look at those business metrics and attribute it to what we've done in HR? If we can't communicate that, we're going to have challenges with credibility compared to the other business units that can, right? That goes to the point of, we got to stop talking about feelings of we did this and we feel it's better because of this than research.
Feelings aren't dollars.
Exactly. It is a business. And I think we sometimes forget that, we're a part of the business. And if the business is not driving business results, we're kind of useless.
Well, I mean, I think you have to move away from the thought like when TA and HR are not profit centers. That's a terrible way to think about from a business. They are your people, and you have to invest in them, the technology, the support, and the training, and that
Totally.
comes down from the top. So once that starts, once it continues, that's how you have a well-oiled machine, as they like to say.
But Adam, on that point, that drives business results, right? Like if TA is doing a really good job, how do we correlate that to revenue numbers? And I think that's fairly easy to do, right?
Yeah, well, easier said than done.
Yeah.
So, Serge, as always, engaging, fantastic conversation. Stay warm, stay cool, and we will catch you next week for Serge with the weather.
Thank you, guys.
I think we got a call coming. Hello, John.
Adam, what's up, buddy?
There you go. Good to see you again. What's happening, man?
I got to tell you, I'm a little intimidated. I'm following
Why?
Serge the weatherman. I've never followed a weatherman on a podcast before. I'm not quite sure. I
Well-
live in Cleveland, and it's always
Sunny.
overcast. Whenever I leave here on a plane, it's always fantastic. Within about 3 minutes, I will see the sun again. And then you're talking about my football team's arch nemesis, but for a fantastic cause. Make sure to donate so Jerome Bettis can do his thing. Former Pittsburgh Steeler. I live in
Yeah.
Cleveland.
So Pittsburgh is your
Yes.
is your enemy. Yeah, no, I
We
get it
just
too.
got throttled this weekend, and that's okay. But we're not here to talk about professional sports.
I mean,
But
we could talk about professional podcasting. So John and I had the pleasure to connect in Chicago at SHRM. Had him on the show. We were recording from our booth over at Fountain. That was a lot of fun. That was a massive conference. I mean, that was a big. I think there was 2,000 exhibitors there. That was crazy.
yeah, SHRM annual, 25,000 people. Yeah, 2,000 vendors, a bunch of podcasters. Nobody quite like you though, Paz. You were killing it.
I really I appreciate that. And so let's do a quick introduction for folks that may not know you. Tell everyone who you are, what you do best, and what's going on with that painting behind you.
Yeah, for sure. I'll start with the painting. My mom was an acclaimed watercolor artist, and I used to have a bunch of stuff behind my background pre-COVID, and then COVID happened, and I thought to myself, if that's going to be part of my brand, I got to change it. My brother owns an architectural sign and design company, so he
cool.
took one of my mom's paintings and turned it into a mural, and it's
Cool.
very, very meaningful to me. I love my parents, miss both of them dearly, having lost them almost 4 and 5 years ago. That being said, I am their son. I'm the youngest of 4 kids in my family. I'm married for 27 years, coming up here shortly. I've got 2 kids, a
There you
Will
go.
and a Mallory, 17 and 14 years old.
God bless.
Started my career in the HR outsourcing space, working for ADP, and now I own a boutique professional services firm that specializes in staffing, specifically for HR, payroll, and HR technology. And then we have a unique HR tech practice where we do selection, implementation, and optimization. And last but not least, I wrote a book called HR Like a Boss, which was SHRM's first ever #1 new release on
Boom.
Amazon, and has been really taking off and taking me places I never thought I could.
Love it.
And we're helping clients transform their business through the power of human resources.
So first of all, I'm glad I asked that open-ended question. I mean, you hit that one out of the park. I always say we're going to talk podcast shop in a little bit here. You got to be careful with the open-ended questions. And I mean, I set you up for that one because people needed the introduction, but you need to keep questions kind of structured and not let people just go off the leash there. So 2 questions for you. First, when's my episode coming out on your show? I think it's coming out the 12th. Is that true?
Literally in 2 days. So check
In
that
2
out.
days.
We'll drop that on LinkedIn for everybody to see, and then it'll be on all your podcasting platforms. And it was fantastic. We flipped the script and made him
Flipped it.
answer all the tough questions. So and he didn't choke at all. He's a high performer, and he did a great job. It was awesome.
I appreciate that. I mean today I'm slag. It's hard as a podcaster. The garbage truck woke me up this morning at about 5:30 a.m., which is about an hour and a half normally earlier than I normally get up. And you know how it is when you can't fall back asleep. So I'm not at 100% today. I'm at like 82%. I'm still trying to give it my all. I'm still trying to deliver here. And that's the thing as a podcast host. You need to have consistency. The audience's experience is what matters. Tell us why it matters to listen to your podcast. Aside from the fact that I'm on it and I'm awesome and amazing and I say good, cool things. That means
yes. Yeah, we have great guests. If we can get Adam Posner on the show, that gives you kind of an idea. But I will tell you one thing.
Lower
Adam,
the standards.
and you mentioned it already. I think I tell all guests when they join the show and we do before we turn the red light on and record, a 1-word answer is as bad as a 1,000-word answer. And every once in a while I have to put my hand raised and say, hey, we're getting a little long-winded on your question, because I think you got to be concise and direct and get to the point, because otherwise you lose people. They are like, oh my gosh, this
it's a ramble,
droning on, whatever the case is. But then last but not least, the most important thing that I learned, 150 some episodes, listening back to my own, checking out all kinds of other podcasts, is that the podcast has nothing to do with me. It's all about the guest and their story and their journey. And here's what I'd say. You said you were 82% of yourself today. That's you being totally authentic and you being real and not some robot that's following a script and
just
doing a bunch
reading
of
questions. No way.
Yeah, so lame, so boring, so not Adam Posner. So I totally get it.
Well, I'm gonna give you some Adam Posner advice here for this one, because people confuse it. It's a podcast, but it's pronounced Posner.
I'm an idiot.
No,
Try
you're
to
not
pronounce my last name. How's that?
I don't. I just call you John.
Okay, good.
It's a pro tip right there. If people want to know your last name, they can see it in the comments. I don't need to repeat it. But here's a lesson that I learned early on. I've recorded with live shows almost 500 episodes, and early on in my experience in early 2019 when I started, a very trusted source, friend, she works in media, she goes, Adam, I could hear you thinking about the next question you're going to ask the guest, and you're talking a lot more than the guest. I kind of have a rough 70-30 kind of rule that I tried to follow. I hate when I go on a podcast and the guest just goes on their soapbox. Now, with that being said, I have my times that I rant, and it's my show, so I have the platform for that. But I use it as a very precise weapon. I don't use it every episode, and I'm very careful with that. How often do you go on rants on your show?
Every once in a while, especially when there are things that I'm passionate about, like purpose and supporting human resource professionals. But I do give the caveat at the beginning of it usually, hey, just so you know, guest, I'm going to go on a rant here, or I apologize at the end of it. Just because same piece of advice I got or slightly different, Adam, is that it's not about me. And although it's my name on the book and I wrote and conceptualized the idea of HR Like a Boss, so be it. It's about showcasing the guest, giving them a chance to tell the story. And I will tell you, when you do this 150 times, you get some exceptional guests like you. And then every once in a while you get a stinker. I mean, one story I have, I won't disclose who the person is, but I could actually hear the piece of paper that their notes were on rattling because they were so nervous just answering simple questions. And this was an executive, an HR leader.
It happens.
And I had to pause them and say, hey, we got to redo this. Please put the paper down and let's just you and me have a conversation about what's going on in your world, how you view the world of human resources. And it got a lot better, but the guest really makes the show, quite frankly.
Well, it does, but I'm a student of podcasting, and something that kind of stuck with me recently is, while I believe that too, like my show is a canvas, the guests are my art, I shine a light on them, but my audience is really coming back for me. They're coming back for the host, right? They're coming because they're not coming back to the same guest every week, right? You have to kind of think about that as well. Now, the other thing that I do, I take a lot of pride and I do my due diligence to preview a potential guest, past media, podcast, audio, video, to see if I have that energy. And I try to not book guests who aren't going to deliver, because at the end of the day, your audience's auditory and visual experience is what matters. So as best as possible, try to screen the guests beforehand. So John, we got to keep the show moving, but I want everyone out there to check out HR Like a Boss. Where could they find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more?
Yeah, simplest way is hrlikeaboss.com. That's hrlikeaboss.com. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, do a lot of posting and sharing stories and experiences. You can buy the book through Amazon or get a discount if you're a SHRM certified professional at the SHRM store. And you can email me, john@willery.com. I would give you out my phone and my home address, but I think it's a little creepy, probably a little too much.
Yeah, Lynn Bailey's going to hijack that, and she's going to steal all your Christmas decorations. So, John, I appreciate you. I'll see you out there at one of these hotspot TA conferences. Everyone check out HR Like the Boss. Check out his book on SHRM. John, thank you for joining us, and it's time for, you might want to hang around for this because this is my favorite segment. It's time for Joel's Poll. Sorry.
It was exciting.
Joel should
You want me
rap
to
for
rap?
us.
I can
so.
do a rap.
Late dated that Facebook.
LinkedIn. It's Stinktin. All right, here we go.
LinkedIn.
So LinkedIn is
One
not
bar.
Facebook. We hear this all the time. Thank you. Look, I've been hearing this more and more recently. I think it's because with the new video feed,
Shakes fist.
you got all these people being like, "Hey, this isn't TikTok. LinkedIn isn't
Yeah.
Facebook.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is LinkedIn." So I just asked, do you like seeing personal content on LinkedIn? What do you guys think? Like the majority of people, yes, no, somewhere in the middle.
I'm gonna say yes. I think it. Well, the video, yeah, yes on your poll, but I think that they're doing a terrible job with the feed. Overall speaking, people are just literally repurposing their TikTok. They don't even remove the watermark. They're just literally reposting the TikTok videos. Some of them are nonsense. They're also propagating a lot of terrible creators that I personally hate.
Like who? Call them out.
No, I'm not gonna do that. Ain't gonna do it. But let's get to it. Oh, Danielle, what's your prediction?
Well, I did vote on this one. So I kind of already know what the answer and the result is, but in my opinion, I think business is personal. Like you can't take the
Yes.
person out of the
Except for when
business.
you get
So
laid off.
that's that's why I think that LinkedIn is still a place where personal content can thrive. I think it's not something that should be all the time. I think it's something where it's like, oh, bring people into like a day in your life, or like, building in public, or being a mother and a working woman. Like I think those types of posts tend to actually do really well, and I'm excited that LinkedIn is, propagating some of that type of content. But
Let's go to the results.
Let's go to the results. But I also want to say a couple of years ago on Clubhouse. Yeah. So all right. First of all, does this surprise you, Adam? Does this surprise you?
I think there's a lot of people out there who just don't want to hear about your day in the life.
67% no. So 2/3 of people say,
and that was a good turnout there. I mean, you almost have 3,000 votes. I mean, that's a statistically viable poll in the world of Joel's.
Poll the poll. That's why we do Joel's poll. So Keirsten in the chat said too.
Do you think smart recruiters should reference and Tracy Parsons should use your data for future surveys?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, I'm being dead serious here. I think that you have such a large audience that, I mean, if you do less clickbaity polls and do more insightful stuff, we might actually get some useful content.
Yeah, but what I found is it's really only the clickbait polls that do well. Like, do you like remote work? Yes or no? Like
should probably be in the job descriptions.
Here's what I'll say about the whole personal content on LinkedIn. When I was back in the day,
people are human too.
Back in the day, I was in a Clubhouse room with Daniel Roth, who's like the editor at LinkedIn, right? Like the chief editor or whatever.
Yes.
And he was really encouraging personal content. And there's a couple of like influencers that have joined the platform in the last couple of years, like actual celebrities. And they've said something like, this is my first LinkedIn post. What advice do you have? And he's openly commented, be personal, be real. But then like, over the last like 18 months, they've gone really back on that, and they've been like, it's not valuable content. It needs to be, valuable business content. That's what people want on LinkedIn. But for creators, like to your point, Danielle, we all know if you post a picture of like your kids or you have some sort of emotional personal story, you get more engagement. So it's like they reward more engagement with these posts. That's why people do it. That's why people post the selfies, because they just get more engagement. Although when you do a poll like this, 2,000 people out of almost 3,000 people, 2/3 are saying no. So I don't know, Adam. What's your take? I feel like you're like a once a month personal post in person. Like you don't post a lot of personal content.
Yeah, I mean, I try to make it count, and I try to make it more impactful because I think when people are doing it it's overkill, and I also think that you can be personal without sharing too much personal stuff.
Yeah.
So I use it very sparingly, and when I do it, it needs to be effective. Really needs to hit those emotional points, and I have to land the plane, right? It has to be a reason behind the story that I'm doing, and not just be like, these are my kids. I also try not to show my kids too much on LinkedIn. It's just
yeah.
I
feel like
Danielle, what about
you? Will see my kids. You will see my kids though on the end of your show. They're going to be joining me, but that's a different story. That's how we do it every year.
I feel like I used to post a lot more personal posts because I probably had like fewer business opinions than I do now.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think personal posting for anyone who's like starting to post or starting their creator journey on LinkedIn, it's a good way to build rapport, to build a connection, and build that trust with your
That is
audience,
true.
and
You're
get them to
connecting.
know who you are, and buy in to the journey of, your growth on the platform, and making them feel closer to you.
Builds authenticity too. It makes you relatable, right? So that's why you have to think about mixing it into your strategy.
Especially in the beginning, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because you have to get people roped in somehow, if especially if you're not providing like so much
Hacks.
But
value,
what
or
if but what if your personal side is not something that people care about?
I think it'll find the right people, the right
No.
audience
Well, Joel's good.
eventually.
I will say I used to post more personal content than I do now. And then now if I post something personal, it gets less engagement than my regular content.
Mm.
So I'm
Mm.
actually unincentivized to,
I
to
kind of
share
want
it.
to test. I want to test it. I used to test a lot, like the photo theory. So, like, if you post a selfie, or it's much more likely to get
Oh,
more
with
views.
random, yeah.
Definitely saw that. Definitely saw
Un-
My
that.
my
and when they're
selfies get 0
and when
views.
they're unrelated, I mean that's the best. The unrelated photo that has nothing to do with the content that always gets me. So we could talk about this for days, but it's time to bring
It's
on our
time to
next
move
guest.
on. Let's
Keep it
go.
rolling. Paula.
We got Keirsten Greggs in the house. This is your second time for you on the
It
show
is.
with
It
me.
is.
How is everything going?
It's going. How's everything with you?
Oh, it is. It's great. Let me ask you this question. You were just here for the poll. I know you said sometimes for the answer.
I know, and
What?
that wasn't one of the. It was yes or no, and I said sometimes
It's perfect. Well, why did you say sometimes? Like, what's your thought with this?
because I think it depends. I think some people overshare, or some people share things that are for the purposes of just getting engagement and just clickbait, just getting their views up so that LinkedIn continues to put their other content in. Or some people are just trying some things out. Like, let me see if I post this picture without this message, or if I just post a hashtag. So I think sometimes it's like a trial and error thing as well. And there are other times that, like, I don't really want to see you like eating in your car.
You don't.
But
You don't want to see it.
that's my personal opinion. The results from your poll were actually pretty eye opening, though. That 33% is probably those of us who do this that want to post personal content, and then the 67% is those who don't want to see it. And I think we need to start listening to the 67% a little bit more, or at least find out what is it that you want. What kind of content do you really want to engage on LinkedIn specifically? And you'll see a lot of social media managers who, they push these things like, here's how you post on this platform as opposed to this platform. So we got to pay some more attention to that. I don't think that LinkedIn is strictly like what you do for work in terms. It's more than that. No, it's not LinkedIn, but you could say the same thing about LinkedIn. I'm sure there's people who don't want to see my professional related, or my job seeker related, or my career related, or my talent acquisition related stuff on Facebook, and they'd rather just me post a selfie saying HR coffee shop, or here's what business mullet I'm wearing today.
No, 100%. Well, you also got to keep in mind that I don't think people are ever going to be happy with social media. Like, I've kind of
No.
realized this, where like I talk about TikTok, some people hate on TikTok. I talk about Snapchat, people hate on Snapchat. I talk about Facebook, people hate on Facebook. So it's all. I almost feel like no matter what LinkedIn does, I don't think they're going to make everyone happy. But anyway, I'm grateful to have you on the show again. Talk to us about the trap series that we're going to be collabing with you on. Talk to us about the Rocking Around the Recruiter Tree.
Rocking Around the Recruiter Tree is a series that Richard Rosner and I started a few years ago, actually during the pandemic. It used to be called something else, and then we found out that we had inadvertently ripped that name off from someone else, so we changed it to Rocking Around instead. And it was like 12 days of recruiting, and I was already someone's thing. Apologies for that. I got some phone calls. I had to make some amends around the Festivus poll. So there's all of that. And then we're going to start next week. Again, it's going to be a week long of recruiters sharing their stories, their triumphs, and their challenges. My show Trap Chat started off with just talking to recruiters and or recruiter adjacents, whether they be in HR, whether they be in legal, DEI, content creation, whatever the case may be. So I always like to give back at the end of the year and just let those folks shine. We got some great guests: Christina Minyard, Dorian Baker, Tiffany Toussaint will also be there. V. Richardson, Richard, I'm trying to convince him to be a guest on this show. I don't get to interview him much. He interviewed me last year for my one of my October shows. So hopefully things are going to be as exciting and fun as they've been over the past couple of years. A lot of holiday fun.
How many guests do you typically have on the series altogether?
I'll do as many, since I'm starting the third week now in January. I'll do as many as I can up until December 25th.
Amazing. All right, and so they're going to be answering some holiday themed questions.
Yes.
What I'd love to ask you is, obviously, and we kind of touched upon this at the beginning of the show. I think Adam was asking us, like, how do we work in December? So talk to us about, like, how you kind of balance the holidays and work and just all those demands, content creation, the show. How do you try and find that balance?
I set expectations, not just for what I think guests or what the audience will want to hear, but also where my bandwidth is. Like, I'm not going to overextend myself. I set times that we would be taping, that we would get this stuff out. Thankfully, because this is a series and it's something that we've done before, I didn't have to do a lot of, going back and creating graphics and all the other stuff that goes into getting a show up and started. I rearranged some of the questions from last year, just based on the fact that, like, some of them may not even be relevant right now. But I gotta set expectations. I'm not going to, wear myself out trying to put things out there, especially when a lot of people really just want to be with their families. A lot of people want to take some rest and some downtime. And I think this also does that for some of the guests as well, because they look forward to it. They enjoy coming on and talking about things that aren't so rigid, so to speak, and that are just fun. Like, tell me about you. Like, not just about the work you do, but tell me about you, what you enjoy doing during the holidays. What was your biggest win this year? How do you navigate working through the holiday season as a recruiter, filling jobs and, making someone's day? Those type of stuff, those type of things are what we kind of focus on. And it always turns out awesome, gives even other recruiters some insights into how other recruiters are doing things. And I've seen some folks, make some adjustments there as well.
How do you think, like, this holiday season compares to other times of the years for recruiters? Like, what are some of the differences you think? Because even like candidates, right? I mean, they're kind of like taken off. Are they in the mindset to look for a new job? What have you found?
I think people are a little bit more exhausted this year. And I say that, like, I don't think folks feel like they have a lot to look forward to, or they've kind of put a pause. We encourage people not to pause their job search completely. Like, don't stop it. Maybe take, schedule some rest times, but absolutely, continue to be engaged to the best of your ability and as you can during the holiday season. But I think I do see more people that have kind of like taken that step back, that have resigned themselves to, like, I'll just wait until something happens. I always, do this thing where I apply to jobs to see how long it takes people to respond, especially recruiters during this time, whether they're going to give feedback, whether they're going to be engaged. And surprisingly, I got a response this morning. I don't even remember when I applied for this job, but they were like, you know
2022.
Probably. They're like, they're like, we've taken, and they said, we've taken this job down because we're going to reevaluate it. And no. They're like, we encourage you to read the new description.
Oh, okay.
They gave a timeline for when they're going to post the new job. And it was like, if you're interested in the new job, feel free to apply.
As long as they didn't adjust the salary lower, I'm okay with it.
Well, I don't know yet, because again, I haven't seen this. Like, basically when they're like, we put this job on hold, that's kind of the end of the conversation. But they're like, we put this job on hold. We are reevaluating. We are going to post the job again on XYZ date. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
I don't know whether I've heard of.
Never seen that.
Well, I like the transparency there. I like, and I think that's huge, right, for candidates. Communication, being transparent, and just having those touch points. Obviously, 2024 has been, I think, for most people, a tough year. I talk to a lot of people in recruitment, and obviously, as recruiters, we are optimistic and we're positive about the future, especially when it comes to the job market. But it has been tough for just so many recruiters, so many job seekers. What's one thing that you're looking forward to in 2025? What's something you're excited about?
Well, I'm excited about TA Week in February. Yes.
Me too.
Yes,
Amazing.
I'm very excited. That's one. I'm excited about all the people that are going to come back, refreshed, excited, hitting the ground running. I'm excited because I do think the job market is going to shift a bit. During an election year, especially a presidential election year, we always have some type of lull because people want to see what is going to happen during the election, who's going to win, and then how are we going to shift our priorities in terms of, aligning with or not aligning with the incoming administration. So I think a lot of companies are going to restart some of the jobs that they paused. I think they're going to recalibrate. There's not going to be so much this, tension and wait and see. So I'm excited about the opportunities that await us in 2025. And I want to be optimistic, even ahead of 2025. We only have a few more weeks, but there's no reason to wait. The same thing we tell job seekers, don't wait to apply. Don't wait. Do it now.
Only way I know you're not going to get a job is if you don't apply to it. But with that being said, apply to the right jobs. Please don't just apply to random jobs. No lazy apply over here. Well, where can people find out about Trap Recruiter? Where can people find out about the Rocking Around the Recruiter Tree event?
Yes.
Where can people connect with you?
Well, I'm everywhere at Trap Recruiter, Rocking Around the Recruiter Tree. Again, we'll start broadcasting Monday. And you can catch it on my LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram Live. It's been working. So hopefully it continues to work. Just check me out. Make sure you log in. If you know any recruiters that you want to hear from, shoot me a DM or send me a message and say, hey, talk to this person or connect me to that person. I'd love to talk to them. And also, again, register for TA Week. If you are interested in coming, there is the second early bird ends on December 12th. That's in 2 days. If you use code Greggs10, you can get 10% off.
Amazing. I cannot wait for that. Can't wait to meet in real life. Keirsten Greggs in the house. So good to see you. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you again. And hopefully we'll get a third time here in 2025. And we will move on to the next segment. It sounds like we got another caller coming in.
I did not know that.
Dean, what's happening?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing all right. Pleasure to meet you.
You as well.
What's happening?
Sorry, I don't have a fancy background. I tried that once. Everybody got mad because I like seeing the pictures and everything.
All right, so what do we got going on here? There's a lot going on, and I can't really zoom in on it. What do you got behind you?
Sports and comics.
Sports and comics. What sport in particular? Or are you kind of just a generalist?
Right now it's football season, so football.
Who's your team?
My team's the Seahawks, but I also keep an eye on the Steelers because Russell Wilson plays for the Steelers.
I like both of those teams. I feel I went to school up in Buffalo. I'm a Giants fan, and it's been a rough, we'll call it 10 years. Being a Giant fan just as bad as being a Jet fan. I think being a Jet fan is worse because your expectations are higher, right? Like you think you're going to have a good team. You think, you got Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest of all time, and he's just terrible, which kind of opens a conversation. You could have the best talent, but culture matters, right?
Oh, definitely. And by the way, I grew up in New York, so believe me, I know. But I was a Buffalo fan when I lived in New York.
So I went to school up in Buffalo. So the Bills are my AFC team. I give them a shot. But I kind of like Pittsburgh. I like Pittsburgh's energy. I always kind of felt drawn to that Pittsburgh team. They have, and always winning. And I also love about Pittsburgh is the tenure and longevity of their coaches.
Mm-hmm.
What are they? They've had like 4 coaches in the last 100 years, something like that. Some crazy stat.
Something like that. The guy that's been there now has been there, I think, 12 or 14 years. I can't recall right off the top of my head.
He's been there. Tomlin's been there. He's been there a long time. So for anyone out there, Dean, tell us who you are and what you do best.
Oh, I suck at this.
Tell me what you do for a living. It's just another way of saying, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, what I don't do best is talk about myself. My name is Dean Costa. I am a sourcing research type person. I work for Lockheed Martin. I've been around for 30 plus years. I have a YouTube page. I have a tool I created. I'm on LinkedIn, although I don't put anything personal on LinkedIn. I put that on Facebook.
There you go.
I just, I try to help people as best I can. I have about 20 hours a week I set aside to help people. All I got to do is email me and I'll get on a call and try to help them with whatever.
That's great.
Whether it's finding something or learning something or finding a job or whatever. Yeah, that's really about it. Like I said, I'm not very good at pontificating about myself.
Well, that's all. But listen, you've been around the block, man. Well, first of all, I could see that you're a veteran, so thank you so much for your service here. How's your experience and what branch were you?
Army.
What is that correlation from experience in Army to sourcing and recruiting? Where's really that connection where you've transitioned those skills and experience that you learned while you're in the Army to recruiting and sourcing?
Well, I got out of the Army shortly after the Persian Gulf War, medical. And the last year I was there, a lot of people were getting out. And so I helped, along with a friend of mine, create something to help these people find jobs. So we called it reverse recruiting because instead of finding people, we were finding the job. Right. And that's kind of where it was. And then when I got out, we moved to Seattle where my wife's family is. And I just got lucky and got into a company where they wanted a veteran. Mm-hmm. And I think as far as the correlation goes, it's just a matter of we don't give up. We tend to pay a lot of attention to almost everything. And we just keep going until the job's done. And that's just the way it is. The
perseverance and making sure that the job is done. Like we're not stopping until whatever the task is in front of us, we're going to complete it. We're going to solve the problem. We're going to find solutions. We're going to be solutions oriented.
And we're very loyal. And that means not just to the company we work for, but to the people we work with. I've got a guy, my first job when I got out of the military, so this is 1995, we're still friends. And I got him his first contract job. And we've stayed in contact ever since, and we just are good friends. I'm good friends with a lot of people. I got several of my hired into Microsoft when I worked there, and we're still very close to each other. So there's a loyalty thing there. We just kind of, hey, that's
what you do. So let's talk about TA Week coming up. You'll be there with another friend of ours, Mr. Steve Levy, and your topic is sourcing magic.
Yep,
revealing the secrets to finding talent. Well, for everyone out there who's listening, let's give a little bit of alpha. Let's give a little sneak preview. What are you and Steve going to be talking about? Let's talk about some of these secrets now.
We're going to be talking about a bunch of different things. So some tools that can help you out, like quick example. There's a site called BizConnect that has org charts, but you got to pay for them. Otherwise, they're blurred out. Well, there's a way to still see everything. You just got to know how. Ooh. Now you're probably thinking an org chart. Well, how does that help me find people? Well, if you're looking for a VP, they're going to be on the org chart. If you're looking for a senior director, they're going to be on the org chart. So it allows you to target a company as well as a position. But again, they blur it out unless you pay for it. But there's a way around that.
Can you find that on LinkedIn though? Can I search the company and put in VP and they'll just come up?
Not always. Not everybody is on LinkedIn, contrary to popular belief. I'll give you an example. LinkedIn says, or as Steve calls it, the Blue Devil. The Blue Devil. Yes, the comic book.
Is it that Cialit? No, sorry.
No, the Blue Devil actually was a comic book hero.
Right.
Anyway, he says that they say there's 1 million people. Well, once you get rid of duplicate people, fake profiles that don't tell you anything, and deceased people, yes, there are a lot of dead people on LinkedIn because LinkedIn won't let the families remove them. There's only about 800,000. Well, if we take that same correlation over,
we're going from 1 billion to 800,000.
Yeah,
you're saying 90%,
1 million to 800,000.
Okay,
my bad. So if we take that same correlation over to Facebook, which has 3.5 billion, and we use the same numbers, that's 1.5 billion left. 800,000, 1.5 billion. I'm pretty sure the billion's bigger than and 6% of people on GitHub aren't on LinkedIn, and I can go on and on and on.
So tools like this are going to be helpful, of course.
Yeah. So there's a tool out there semi-new called Jobin that has 3.2 billion people in its
Jobin.
database. So obviously LinkedIn doesn't have everybody, and it just doesn't.
Yeah, not everybody's on LinkedIn. You have to opt into LinkedIn, right? I mean,
exactly. The other thing is the org chart not only lets you know, find the people you want, but to let you know who they report to, who reports to them. It just gives you so much more information. And then, of course, with LinkedIn, you're limited to their in-mails, which, well, according to them, a 15% reply rate on in-mails is
much lower than, I think it's lower than that. I mean, based on my experience.
I'm trying to be nice. They're saying 15%. I actually get higher, but most on average is lower.
The other thing you have to remember about in-mails too is what account is it tied to from the email that you signed up for? A lot of people might have signed up years ago with like a Yahoo or an Opt Online or some other weird cable email, and they don't get any notifications about in-mail in their inbox. And how often they're looking at their messages. Not everybody is like us that literally is glued to LinkedIn because that's our business. We live on LinkedIn from a business perspective.
70% of non-recruiters do not check their emails but once a quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it's same thing with connection requests as well too. And there's other ways, and there's so many cool tools. There's so many cool tools out there.
Just find their email. You know where they work. Find their work email. If you don't like emailing someone at work, just go ahead and search their work email. I guarantee you it's connected to them somewhere else and their personal email's there.
Let me ask you a question here. Our production team is curious. Does that mug travel with you? Are you going to bring that mug with you to San Diego? Like, do you wrap it, like bubble wrap it?
I might. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I have 2 of these. So
is it a travel mug, a travel version?
This will go with me though. And I learned this lesson at another conference where if I took the hat off and nobody knew who I was, I put it on, everybody knew who I was. So I've come to the conclusion they don't know me. They just know this hat. So.
And rightfully so, and I mean this in the best way possible, it gets you on the plane first, right? It gets you on the plane first. You got to take advantage of that. Anyway, to get on the plane first, you do it. I bring a fake baby. If my kids aren't with me, I just bring a fake baby and I just throw it in my backpack when I'm done. I'm like I'm traveling with an infant in arms.
Back in the day when I traveled to Bellevue, I used to use my backpack and put a coat around it so it looked like I had another person so I could ride in the HOV lanes.
There you go. So let's talk about some modern tools out there. Sure. You and I are in the Wayback Machine. Overall, your thoughts in AI sourcing. Is it here to stay? Is it going to take the jobs of sourcers? As I like to say, I think 80% of a lot of recruiters are going to be out of work in the next 5 to 7 years.
You just hit my second soapbox. The first one was LinkedIn. My second soapbox is AI. So humor me a minute. I'm looking. Okay, do you see C3PO or R2D2 behind me? There ain't no such thing as AI yet. It's not AI. It's just machine learning on steroids. It's not an AI.
It's right, and I agree with you from a semantics perspective. They need to just put a marketing label on it. Right?
AI is sexier than machine learning on steroids, so I get it. I think AI as it stands right now, and I do use AI. Perplexity is the one I prefer. It makes some things easier for me. It's not going to replace me. Mm-hmm. If I ask it to write a Boolean string, the string is not correct. It's decent, but it's not optimized or correct.
It's also about the inputs, right? Like we're getting there.
We are getting there. In time it will, but the reality is still this. You still have to be able to go in and be, what's the right word?
Human.
Be able to go in and say, okay, here's what it wrote and it didn't get me what I want. So let's modify and do this. Let's modify it. You still got to have that ability to be flexible enough to go in and change it when the initial string does not work, or you have to go back and do it again. And it's a pain in the butt to keep doing it. I have access to about 12 different AIs and none of them can write me a correct Boolean string. They can get me close, but not quite. And then if I go in there and it's not 100% correct,
the search won't be good.
I can't, it takes me more time to ask it to modify it than it is for me to just modify it. And by the way, I have timed it. I can write a Boolean string faster than it can.
And I also think the other problem too is a lot of maybe more junior or lazy recruiters and not as skilled recruiters. They're taking that result from AI as gospel, and it's an search.
And exactly.
There's other ways you could use it, and I use different kind of prompts and techniques to distill a job description down. Say not just give me the Boolean, but synthesize certain keywords from it, and then I use the pieces like that and I write it myself.
You know how I use it? Right. Create a list of all words that mean Java developer. Take above list and create an OR string. Hey, got my OR string. Doesn't mean I have my target where I'm targeting. Doesn't mean I have all the rest, but at least I have that pain in the butt part. Or take the above job description and show how the below resume matches. And it'll create a big long list of how it matches. That's fine. But I always make sure I do them things on 2 different ones. And
then you want to compare it. This is This is good stuff, and I think everyone out there could learn a ton from you and Steve. And I think that the panel should be like, you can teach an old dog new tricks. I would rebrand the panel. I would think we would get more folks there. But Dean, you and I could talk for hours and hours about recruiting here. Give everyone, any new recruiters out there, give them one pro tip to be successful at sourcing and recruiting.
Always ask. I'm going to give you two, actually. Always ask questions.
Two for Tuesday. It's 2 for Tuesday. Say it again. Let's start there.
Always ask questions. And number two, always remember, tools come and go, but the best tool you'll ever have is your brain.
I am untooled then. I am going to be not having the right tools there, as my wife would say. She's like, what are you working with here? But I want everyone to check out Dean. I want everyone to check out TA Week. Hopefully I will be there. I think Danielle will be there. Looking forward to meeting you in person. Everyone check out that panel with the legend himself, Mr. Steve Levy and Dean DaCosta. Dean, I want to thank you. Where could folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more?
LinkedIn. I got a YouTube page, the Search Authority on Weebly, Twitter. I post every Monday. I post a new video and I post stuff constantly throughout the week. So just put in Dean DaCosta in Google. The first 10 pages are me.
There he is. Dean, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been fantastic. Appreciate you. Let's bring the panel back on and bring it home.
Woo, woo, woo! Let's go. We had a good show today.
Bring us home, Joel.
Such a good show.
Let's go. I want to thank one more time. Well, you can't just be one more time, but
one more time.
ERIN, we want to thank our sponsors over at ERIN. We want to thank you for all of the hard work. We want to thank everybody behind the scenes as well. Shout out to our production crew. And guys, remember that we have new shows. So we basically have a show every single day from Purple Acorn.
Yeah.
So check out the Alder Hour with Matt Alder, complete legend. He was on yesterday on Monday. So go check that out.
I tuned in. Did you guys tune in?
I tuned in. I left a
tuned out.
comment and Adam tuned out. Perfect. And then stay tuned for Hire Her. That is a podcast from Talent Collective. Huge shout out there. And that's on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. It's 1 p.m. Central. It's some other time in the West Coast. And then check out My First Job with Mike Wood. That is a new one as well. That's on Thursdays.
Yes.
And then our newest show. Adam, why don't you take this one?
Our newest show.
From
the desk of Jane Montemorano. Jada Montemorano. Let's play that back in. Our newest show with Jada Montemorano, premiering this Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 on the East Coast.
Spooky.
We want to thank everybody for joining us today. Remember, one more show before our potential holiday break, and we'll be back in 2025. But guys, we are building something pretty cool here over at Purple Acorn. We have an incredible team behind us. Great shows that are out there. Shows coming in 2025. Keep an eye on this space. Follow us. Check out all the podcasts. Click that link, share. Sharing means caring. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And we'll catch you next Tuesday for another episode.
See you later.
Later.
Bye, everybody.